In our headlines on this Wednesday, June 11th, here in South Korea. The KOSPI soars during trade today to close its session above the 2,900 mark for the first time in more than 3 years. Meanwhile, in London, U.S. and Chinese trade delegates hammer out a framework to implement the trade consensus earlier agreed upon in Geneva. And the wait is almost over as K-pop sensation BTS nears a full reunion, with remaining members completing the compulsory military duty this month. We start with news about the rally in the local stock market. The benchmark KOSPI soared to its highest in over 3 years, breaking past the 2,900 mark today. Our correspondent Park Jun-an has the closing numbers.
South Korea's benchmark KOSPI surpassed 2,900 on Wednesday for the first time in 3 years and 5 months. The KOSPI, which closed below 2,300 on April 9th, has sharply rebounded, gaining over 25% to close at just above 2,907. Among stocks showing strong momentum were those in the financial and semiconductor sectors. Globally, easing uncertainties, especially from the de-escalation of U.S. China tariff tensions following high-level talks, boosted the rise of Korean semiconductor stocks.
Financial groups and such have risen relatively a bit. I think it's fair to say that the semiconductor industry is also taking part in the uptrend due to the improvement in external conditions.
President Lee Jae-myung, while he was running for the presidency, said he was committed to achieving KOSPI 5,000 by improving corporate governance and eradicating abuses of management control. Now that Lee has taken office, expectations for his administration's economic policies are fueling investor expectations, which is driving the market rally.
Although these policies have not yet been implemented, the administration is considering measures such as a large-scale supplementary budget to stimulate the domestic economy. Also, expectations that amendments to the Korean Commercial Act will strengthen shareholder protections have generally driven an inflow of foreign funds.
On Wednesday, President Lee visited the Korea Exchange to discuss how to revitalize the stock market by observing operations. At the exchange, Lee said his administration was reviewing the introduction of systems to detect unfair transactions early. He also said he plans to introduce a zero-tolerance policy on stock price manipulation. Such a policy would include clawing back any ill-gotten gains. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
And for the first time in over a year, employment expanded by over 200,000 in May, but the expansion was uneven depending on sector, with construction and manufacturing noting substantial declines. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the latest.
South Korea saw the largest increase in employment in 13 months, rising for a fifth consecutive month in May. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the number of employed people aged 15 or older in May reached 29.16 million, up 245,000 compared to the same period last year. Though the trend had been an incline recently, it's also the first time in over a year the figure went past 200,000 mark. The same sectors continue to lead the incline, with the same sectors also seeing declines.
By industry, employment increased in sectors such as healthcare and social welfare services, professional, scientific and technical services, and finance and insurance. However, it declined year on year in sectors including agriculture, forestry and fisheries, construction and manufacturing.
In fact, the manufacturing sector saw a decline of 67,000 jobs on year, a smaller decline compared to past months, attributing to overall growth. On the other hand, the accommodation and restaurant industry saw, for the first time, a decline in employment in over a year. The number of employees in the industry dropped by 67,000 compared to a year ago, marking the first decline in 15 months. The decrease is the largest since November 2021, when COVID-19 was in full swing, with a drop of 86,000. However, there's hope as a supplementary budget is expected with the new Lee Jae-myung administration and the ruling Democratic Party holding majority to support President Lee's motivation. Local currencies or universal cash distribution seem to be the options.
Providing payments in the form of local currency can help boost the regional economy. So we could see a temporary increase in spending, particularly in sectors like services, lodging, and dining, which may lead to a slight uptick in employment.
In the meantime, for the first time ever, South Korea's workforce aged 60 and over has surpassed 7 million. This comes as younger age groups, except those in their 30s, saw employment declines, with more seniors staying in the labor market amid a rapidly aging population. The overall employment rate for those 15 and older rose to 63.8%, up 0.3 percentage points from a year ago. 김도현, Arirang News.
Newly appointed deputy foreign ministers began their duty on this Wednesday, one day after being tapped by President Lee Jae-myung. The appointments of first deputy foreign minister Park Yoon-joo and second deputy foreign minister Kim Jin-ah came just a few days ahead of the president's attendance at the Group of Seven summit in Canada, scheduled to start on Sunday local time. Park previously served as the minister of South Korea's mission to the ASEAN, while Kim was a professor at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. The Lee Jae-myung administration has yet to name a foreign minister, a post which, unlike the deputy positions, requires parliamentary approval. The U.S. is confident that ties between Seoul and Washington will continue to thrive under the Lee Jae-myung administration. Remarks to this end were made by U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce during a press briefing on Tuesday in response to a question about President Lee's approach to the alliance between the two countries. The new South Korean president, for his part, has pledged pragmatic diplomacy while highlighting the importance of bilateral relations. Following talks on the phone last week, President Lee and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump are expected to meet on the margins of the G7 meeting in Canada starting June 15th. Over in London, senior trade officials from the U.S. and China have hammered out a framework to put into practice the trade deal earlier sealed in Geneva. Our Lee Soo-jin reports.
The United States and China have agreed on a trade framework that would allow them to implement an agreement reached at the trade talks held in Geneva last month. U.S. Commerce Secretary Harold Lutnick said Wednesday that the U.S. and China have reached a framework to implement the Geneva Consensus, which each negotiation team will present for approval by the leaders of both countries before it is put into effect. This comes after 2 full days of talks that began on Monday in London. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Lutnick had already expressed optimism about the negotiations.
I have to go back to Washington to testify before Congress tomorrow. We have had 2 days of the productive talks.
No, I think we're working on all sorts of trade issues, and I think the talks are going really well.
The high-level talks between the world's largest economies follow discussions held in Geneva on May 10th and 11th, where the U.S. and China agreed to temporarily slash tariffs. But since those talks, sentiment has soured with both sides accusing the other of breaching the agreement. As tensions escalated, U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping held a 90-minute phone call last week during which they agreed to move forward with a new round of trade talks. The U.S. announced strict export controls on advanced semiconductor chip technology and visa cancellations for Chinese students, while China had been slow to lift blocks on shipments of rare earth minerals, a key focus of this second round of talks. Lutnick expressed hope that the framework will help resolve China's rare earth export restrictions. Wall Street's 3 major indices closed higher on Tuesday, buoyed by optimism from senior U.S. administration officials. The blue-chip-focused Dow ended up 0.25%, the S&P 500 rose 0.55%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 0.63%. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
A curfew is in place in some parts of Los Angeles as of 8 in the evening on Tuesday until 6 in the morning on Wednesday local time. It was announced by the city's mayor following days of anti-ICE protests that our Lee Seung-jae says have spread to other cities in the U.S. Do take a listen.
The LA protests against U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration policies continued for the 5th day on Tuesday. According to the police, rioting, arson, and violence have somewhat subsided. However, the demonstrations against the crackdown and deportation of illegal immigrants are spreading to other major cities, including San Francisco, New York, and Chicago. With concerns lingering over the current state of the Los Angeles area, hundreds of U.S. Marines arrived on Tuesday under orders from President Trump. Around 700 Marines were seen awaiting deployment to specific locations. However, they do not have the authority to arrest anyone. Instead, the troops are set to be deployed to protect federal property and personnel. California Governor Gavin Newsom filed an emergency request at a federal court on Tuesday to stop the Trump administration from using both the National Guard and the Marines. Along with the recent deployment of Marines, some 4,000 National Guard members have been sent to LA to control the protests. Trump has also threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would allow him to deploy the military and to federalize the National Guard units of the individual states if he determines the LA street protests to be an insurrection.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see, but I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up, and handing these big chunks of concrete to people.
Trump added that the National Guard will leave once it's deemed that the Los Angeles area is no longer considered dangerous. Meanwhile, progressive groups say that they'll be holding more than 1,500 No Kings protests across the country on Saturday, which is the same day a military parade is set to take place in the U.S. Capitol, marking the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. The organizers believe that Trump is using the military's birthday to celebrate his own birthday, which is also on June 14th. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
In other news, a South Korean KF-16 fighter jet was damaged Wednesday during a multinational drill led by the U.S. in Alaska. According to authorities, the two pilots were forced to eject in response to an emergency situation during takeoff. The pilots were transferred to a nearby hospital and are said to be in stable condition. A separate team from the South Korean Air Force will head an investigation into the incident. On the K-pop front, the wait is nearing an end for BTS fans worldwide as all 7 members are soon set to reunite as a group. Earlier today, 2 more members, Jungkook and Jimin, were discharged from their mandatory service while Suga ends his duty next weekend. Our Park Hyo-bin reports.
As they stepped out of the car, Jungkook and Jimin were greeted with loud cheers, bouquets in hand, smiling at their fans. The pair enlisted together back in December 2023, served in the army, and were officially discharged from mandatory military service on Wednesday morning. After a short salute, Jungkook thanked those he served with.
To our seniors and the officers who spent time with us, thank you so much for taking good care of us.
Jimin expressed heartfelt appreciation for the fans who had waited for them.
With our service now behind us, I believe it's time to keep building the vision we've been working on. We'll do our best to come back with something even better.
Fans from across the globe gathered near the base from early morning to welcome the 2 stars. Banners reading "Purple is back" and "Jungkook's moment begins now" lined the area, along with giant balloons. With Jin and Taeyup already discharged last year and RM and V returning on Tuesday, only 1 member remains before a full reunion. Suga, currently serving as a social service worker, is set to complete his duty later this month. As BTS celebrates the 12th anniversary of its debut this Friday, excitement is building for a long-awaited full group comeback, possibly just around the corner. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
And Seoul is hosting an annual forum that brings together foreign clients and domestic companies in the green technology industry. Our Moon Ji-young was there.
Strengthening cooperation between domestic companies and global partners and promoting local companies' eco-friendly technologies is what the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy aim to achieve at the 18th Global Green of Korea Forum currently being held in Seoul.
We hope that this year's forum serves as a platform to enable participants to see new business opportunities by sharing each country's policies and efforts for carbon reduction, as well as the success stories of international development banks.
The forum, which opened on Wednesday, seeks to provide a robust platform for eco-friendly and energy industry businesses in alignment with the global trend of carbon reduction to support the overseas expansion of domestic companies and the securing of crucial growth engines. This key event provides networking opportunities, project briefings, and matchmaking for Korean and international businesses.
Korea's leadership in environmental technology is an example that we admire, and we're eager to build bridges of cooperation that benefit both of our people.
The scale of the projects presented by the overseas clients and buyers at this year's event amounts to a total of $8 billion. Key projects include the Bangladesh Water Supply and Sewerage Authority water treatment project. Over the course of 3 days, domestic companies will have the opportunity to actively promote the excellence of a variety of environmental and green technologies to potential overseas clients and buyers. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, a South Korean animation is taking the U.S. box office by storm, even surging past director Bong Joon-ho's Oscar-winning Parasite. That being said, our Choi Soo-young sat down with the director of the animation for his response to the rave reviews.
The King of Kings is a 3D animated film directed by Jang Seong-ho. It tells the life story of Jesus based on the book The Life of Our Lord by British author Charles Dickens. Famous Hollywood actors like Pierce Brosnan, Uma Thurman, and Ben Kingsley voiced the characters. Following its release in the U.S. on April 11th, the film made over $54 million in just 17 days, breaking the box office record of Bong Joon-ho's Parasite for the highest-grossing Korean film in the U.S. Director Jang Seong-ho expressed both pride and humility about achieving such success with a non-Korean story told through a Korean production team.
I had been running a visual effects company for a long time, so I was confident in technical skills. I thought animation was the best way to fully use them. But Korea couldn't support the budget, so we aimed for the U.S. market. Christian content there almost never fails, and no one had ever made a full-length animated film about Jesus. That's when I knew this would work.
He said Christianity is deeply rooted in American culture, so he adapted Dickens' book to avoid cliché and worked hard to make it feel natural to international audiences.
We were inspired by Dickens' book for a fresh approach to tell the story through the eyes of a curious child learning who the true king is. Since our main target was America, we focused on making it feel natural to their audience. We got expert advice and many reviews to ensure it wasn't just imitation, but something truly comfortable.
He said it was tough to focus fully on character quality and production without much support.
Creating delicate character movement was a real challenge, and I'm not fully satisfied with the results. Most of my energy went into securing funding without much support, not creating. But now, with better support and conditions, I'm confident the next project will be much stronger.
He hopes that Korea's animation environment won't waste the talents of Korean creators.
There are many talented Koreans, but a lack of opportunities pushes them away, often abroad. Many are now working in Hollywood. I hope the success of my work, The King of Kings, helps create a better environment so they can return and shine in Korea.
The King of Kings will be released in Korea on July 23rd. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In Austria, at least 11 people, including the suspect, have been killed in a high school shooting and many others were injured. The mass shooting happened shortly after 10 a.m. local time on Tuesday at a secondary school in the southern Austrian city of Graz. Police confirmed the suspect, a 21-year-old former student of the school, brought both a legally owned pistol and a shotgun into the school building. While no definitive motive has been confirmed, officials are looking into reports that he may have experienced bullying while attending the school. Austria has declared a 3-day mourning period, and schools across Graz have been temporarily closed. Chancellor Christian Stocker condemned the violence, calling it a black day for Austria. The United Kingdom and 4 other countries announced sanctions against 2 Israeli cabinet ministers for inciting violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. The sanctions announced on Tuesday by the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Norway include asset freezes and travel bans. They target Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, both of whom are prominent West Bank settlers. A joint statement by the 5 nations stated that the targeted ministers have incited extremist violence and serious abuses of Palestinian human rights, emphasizing that the measures are personal and don't affect official ministry functions. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar condemned the sanctions as outrageous. And the United States warned the sanctions could hinder efforts toward a Gaza ceasefire and hostage negotiations. In Colombia, a coordinated series of bombings and shootings targeting police stations and roads in the southwest of the country left at least 7 people dead and dozens injured on Tuesday morning. More than 20 terrorist attacks were reported throughout the day, with assailants detonating bombs using cars and motorcycles while opening fire on police stations in the city of Cali and nearby towns. Police and military officials have blamed a guerrilla faction of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. President Gustavo Petro said Tuesday's attacks will be investigated for potential connections with a recent attack on a presidential candidate who remains in intensive care after being shot in the head. Finally, in northern India, which is experiencing a heat wave with temperatures reaching as high as 45 degrees Celsius, the capital's New Delhi Zoo launched a special summer action plan for its animals on Tuesday to cope with the scorching heat. As the heat wave has been harsh on not just humans, but also animals, the zoo has provided the animals with water sprinklers, a special diet, and ponds to help them combat the heat and stay cool. India's weather office warned of a heat wave for several northern states in the coming days, with light showers expected in some areas starting Thursday. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
Today, heat of around 30 degrees Celsius appeared in most parts of the country. The daytime temperature rose up to 29 degrees in Seoul. Daegu was as high as 30 degrees. Temperatures will stay as hot as today at 31 degrees in Seoul tomorrow. The UV rays are strong during the day under the clear skies. The ultraviolet index will rise to a very high level from the morning. UV rays will be at their peak in the afternoon. Be sure to protect yourself from the strong rays. Tomorrow morning, Seoul, Daejeon, and Gyeongju will start off at 17 degrees, Daegu at 18 degrees. Highs will move up to 30 degrees in Chuncheon, Daejeon, and Daegu, 25 degrees in Busan. Rain will begin in Jeju Island tomorrow and expand to southern parts of Chungcheongdo province by Friday. It will rain all over the country on Saturday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.